How does the Mercedes-Benz E-Class drive? We think it's pretty good. But we're more confident in our riding impression. The E-Class rides very well, even from the driver's seat. You see, the 2017 E300 is the closest thing on the market today to a self-driving car. As such, we spent much of our time behind the wheel not driving, and it was pretty sweet. As for the automatic driving, the E-Class is like the world's greatest, or most annoying, driving instructor. It knows things you probably don't consider, and still does it better than if you did know. Thinking about a lane change? The blind spot warning doesn't just tell you if a car's in the adjacent lane, it also picks up cars that are closing fast and flashes a warning light to keep you from cutting off another driver. The main almost autonomous feature in the E-Class is called Drive Pilot and is part of the driver assistance package. The features of Drive Pilot break down in several more confusing names containing either Distronic or Pilot. In short, the car can maintain safe distance to other cars at speeds up to 130 miles per hour and automatically steer to keep you in the lane. If no lane markings are present, the E-Class can follow traffic at speeds up to 80 miles per hour. It even has a lane change assist feature. Hold a turn signal for 2 seconds, and the car will move to the left or right. But you don't have to grab the wheel to keep the reminders at bay. You can also just tap one of the touch controls on the steering wheel, 2 mini touchpads that navigate the menus on the instrument cluster and main infotainment screen. The practical result is that as long as you keep your eyes on the road and tap the wheel every few seconds, you can go for miles without using the steering, brakes, or accelerator. The automatic steering is limited by the amount of torque applied to the steering wheel, so the angle of a corner the E-Class can take depends on speed and road conditions. We had a few cases where the car started to turn but couldn't maintain trajectory, which is exactly why we emphasize keeping your eyes on the road when you're not driving. Pedestrian detection and braking? Check. Bicycle in the blind spot? Check. Stop traffic on the highway up ahead? Yes, the E-Class can handle that. For one trial we closed down on a fake car traveling much more slowly and were instructed to keep our foot on the gas. We panicked, lifted, and brushed the brakes before the system could kick on. Heart in our throats, we tried again, determined to trust the computer. Sure enough, the E-Class overrode the accelerator and jammed on the brakes to stay within inches of the car in front. Mechanically, the 2017 E-Class sits on a new structure that is 154 pounds lighter than before. Weight gains elsewhere mean the car, as a whole, is 70 pounds lighter than its predecessor. Steel springs are standard with computer-controlled dampers, and new air springs are optional. In the United States, the E-Class range starts with the E300, using the same 241 horsepower turbocharged inline-4 as in other Mercedes-Benz vehicles. The motor connects to a 9-speed automatic. It's the same setup as in the GLC 300, which, despite the C-Class nomenclature, shares many underpinnings with the E-Class. In other markets the E-Class comes in diesel, twin-turbo V6, and hybrid versions. As we mentioned, the next model for America should be a variation on the boosted 6-cylinder wearing AMG badges. The inevitable E63 will also debut in the coming months. It's still hard to forgive the E300's nonsensical nomenclature, but the engine indeed feels greater than the 2.0-liter displacement suggests. At idle, especially outside the car, there's an unbecoming clatter from the direct injection fuel rails. Dial up the driving mode into Sport or Sport Plus and the combination of real and synthesized, we suspect more of the latter. Intake noise is enough to crack the most stoic expressions. The sportier drive modes also adjust the dynamic cruise control settings. Comfort and Eco modes default to lighter acceleration on cruise and softer, earlier shifts on the transmission. There's an individual setting for obsessive-compulsive types, as well as steering wheel-mounted paddle shifters. Even in the hardest charging portion of our test drive we let the computer pick the gears. On occasion the shift programming tries to shift one gear too low in response to acceleration, only to rev out to the next ratio a fraction of a second later. Most of the time the programming works perfectly, down to the detail of downshifting as you lift off the gas and enter a corner. For those keeping score at home, Mercedes-Benz says the E300 will do 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6.3 seconds. For a car that could spend most of its time driving itself, the E-Class is still fun to drive. As we mentioned, our time was brief, but in terms of steering responses, agility, and sure-footedness, the E300 is as good as the Audi A6 and BMW 5 Series. Add in a quiet cabin and smooth ride and E300 could be the best midsize luxury sedan on the market. As always, we'll hold on to an out clause on these opinions after we get more exposure behind the wheel. But for now, the E-Class looks like it's the best car to drive, and the best car to drive itself.